Hi, this is Father Louis Scurti interviewing Bishop Christopher Coyne on Friends of the Word. Bishop is the Bishop of the Diocese of Burlington, Vermont, and he is also the chairperson of the committee that has to do with communication, the Communication Committee of the United States Catholic Conference of Bishops. And Bishop, I really appreciate your taking the time from your, I know you have a crazy busy schedule, to interview with us and share some of your insights on Friends of the Word. Thank you for being with us.
You're welcome.
So tell me, Bishop, that's quite a role that you have on the Bishops' Conference Committee, to be in charge of communication. And tell me what you do and tell me how you get the word across to bishops.
Well, the Communications Committee office at USCCB oversees a number of works. First of all, there's the Catholic Book Publishing arm, which puts out a lot of texts, and especially liturgical texts that are copyrighted and printed by the conference for use in our parishes. So there's that arm. Then there's the Catholic News Service, which is also a department of the USCCB that is under the umbrella of the Communications Office. And then there's the Communications Office itself, which works with all the departments of the conference in order to further the communication work and the messaging that needs to get out and about. There's, we've had a little bit of transition over the past few years. There's a new public relations arm of the USCCB, which works more closely with the president, who is Cardinal DiNardo of Texas, but of Dallas, but no, not Dallas, Houston, excuse me. That is handled more or less by the staff and the executive director of the USCCB day to day. My work with the conference and with the bishops that are on the committee and all that is one that's kind of directing in some of the overall works that we do. We've been working recently to look at the possibility of developing an app, a USCCB app, that would provide a lot of services to the Church of the United States. When the Holy Father came to the United States a year and a half ago, the Communications Office arm pretty much directed the coordination of all the communications work.
Interesting.
Not only do the hosting cities have to provide media assistance, but the conference itself has to provide media assistance in all the cities, in all the places that the Pope is going. So that was very much a lot of the work there. So what we're trying to do too is we're trying to work to improve the digital presence of the conference online, so that the church can get its message out through the use of the internet, through the use of digital means, all that, but also coordinated through the different offices so that we're not doubling up. We're not having like the Justice and Peace Committee doing something in terms of a web page or some kind of digital presence, so that you have all these little silos out there. So we're trying to bring it all into one USCCB silo with a division that would be for Justice and Peace, a division that would be for the Right to Life Committee, all those different things. Excellent. So it's coordination more than anything else.
That's great, and it's coming across to the public very well, I think, via Facebook and other means, and it really is a new education because the community of the church and members who are not members of the church can read or be exposed to what's coming out from our bishops. So often in the past, they would issue a letter or a pastoral, and by the time it got down to the parish level, how many people saw it or even how many people were exposed to it. But now it's coming across quickly. Yeah,
and it's just a little bit of thinking about things. One of the biggest, in terms of use on the webpage that gets a lot of visitors every day is the posting of the daily readings from Mass. The USCCB posts every day daily readings, and that gets a large, significant number of daily visits.
I use them constantly.
And you may have noticed that there are a few other things attached to it now. There'll be like an announcement of a new papal teaching or a book that weren't there before, because some people felt that this should be kept clean, that it shouldn't have any kind of like advertisement or links to anything else because it's about worship, it's about the Word. We don't want to kind of begin to see it as a big advertisement page. But then others said, no, but there's so many people, so much traffic going there. We should at least allow one or two things so that when someone goes to see the daily Mass reading, they might see that there's now a copy of Laudato Si or Amoris Laetitia is available here or something, or this announcement of this happening over here. Not a lot, but it's just those kinds of things that you say, okay, how can we best communicate through what we have?
And it really makes the message global because it compares to secular. I ordered something online not long ago for my niece and nephew, and for at least a week or two afterwards, that particular company kept having ads via the algorithm on my computer. And I thought, that's interesting because I'm finished with that product, but they still send ads out to entice me. Well, guess what? What you just described is a way of enticing people who are interested in the Word and the Church to another aspect of it, while remaining faithful to, in this case, the Scriptures. I think that's a great idea, and it really is successful. And I've ordered stuff from that advertisements as well. When you spoke for the American Magazine and that conference, you mentioned Karl Barth holding the Bible in one hand and the newspaper in the other. I always associate that quote with Thomas Merton. I don't know why, but you quoted Karl Barth. Tell me, how do you do that? How do you preach that way with the Scriptures and the signs of the times side by side?
Well, let's talk about, just in terms of like preparation for preaching. I always encourage the priests and deacons of the diocese and my former students as well to look at the Sunday text for the next week on Sunday. So in other words, Sunday afternoon when they're done with everything, open up readings for the next day,
right,
and for the next week, and read them so that you have some sense of what you're going to be preaching on next week. And then keep that in mind as you begin to watch the news, read the newspaper, watch what's going on in your community, watch what's going on, just in your parish, all those different things, so that you're looking for ways in which this Word of God that's going to be proclaimed on Sunday can break into the life of the community in a very positive way, with the understanding that it's good news. So I think the idea of the preacher having the Bible in one hand and digital media in the other hand is that digital media both inform the other.
Right.
Both inform the other and both lead to the proclamation of the message right now in this particular place, in these particular circumstances, to this particular community.
I recently read something on Pope Francis. I love Pope Francis. I love his outreach, his community building. But he recently spoke about how he prepares for his daily homilies and exactly what you just said. He reads it the day before. He prays about it, Lectio Divinis concept, prays about it, waits for things to happen during the day, and then incorporates it. And he comes across as spontaneous, but you can see it was brewing. He was building up the whole idea of the homily. And it's exactly what you're saying. And it's so practical and applicable in so many ways for the preacher as well as the community.
Yeah, it is. And it just shows a lot of remote work. That's only the first step, and then the next is sitting down and writing out your drafts and all those other things like that.
Right.
But I think it connects with your people, and it allows them to see how the Word of God works in their lives. And it does call for a certain amount of discipline on our part, that at least we're looking at the text for a good 6 or 7 days prior to preaching on them. Mm-hmm. There's nothing worse than hearing a priest get up and say, as I was driving over to work, as I was walking over, I was thinking about what I was going to say in my homily.
Oh.
Well, I just go click. I'm going to start praying the rosary. If you can't take the time to prepare something, I'm not going to bother trying to listen to it.
It's our moment in the sun. It's Andy Warhol's 15 minutes of fame. Well, not 15 minutes, but it's true. It's our moment of responsibility, and I think we have an obligation to make it applicable, make it alive, and if we're not honest, it's going to come across.
Yeah.
What would you say to our community, the millennials of our community, sometimes called nuns, N-O-N-E-S, on surveys, not observing any particular religious community. And so many of those nuns, N-O-N-E-S, are Catholic. Baptism, weddings, funerals, Catholic. Give us your insight as to how to reach out more to them.
I think, it's said that St. Francis said this, but no one's ever able to. St. Francis of Assisi said that the best homily is the life of the preacher himself. No, I've never been able to find. No one's ever find the actual text, but it's kind of a paraphrase.
Right.
Of things that he said. I think the biggest draw of anyone to a faith is the lived lives of the disciples themselves. There's a study out of Notre Dame on young Catholic adults. It's been going on now for a number of years, and they found that, there's a lot of details about it, but what they found is that those young people who were raised in active Catholic families, who managed to stay in the church by the time they were 28, 29 years old, there were two factors. One, that they often came from intact families, that both parents were married, they're still living together, both were believers, both were part of their faith life growing up. But the second thing was that their parents were disciples, that they not only went to church, and they not only were on parish councils, but in the home, in the voting booth, in the way that they talked, in the prayer that they did, and the life that they lived. They clearly were disciples of the church who lived out their lives that way. So I would think that the one draw for millennials would be for all of us who are disciples of the church to live it in such a way that we are people of joy, people of encouragement, people of the church. I always say that, millennials will not complain, but along with others will say, I don't want to be bound by religious practice. I want to have the freedom of my own life to choose in which the way I live. But I always say, true discipleship is free. When you talk to people who have fallen in love with Christ and who have embraced the church and have lived are living a life of discipleship, they'll tell you it's free. I remember one man that I brought into the church from another Christian community, and afterwards he told me, he says, I've never felt so free in my life. I'm 54 years old. I'm free of attachments. I'm free of the game of sexuality. I have women who are friends. I'm dating. But my life is so less complicated now that I've embraced the church's teaching on single life and chastity. My life is so less complicated now that I've found the center of my life to be the teaching of the church and not possessions and not getting ahead. So there's the discipline of the church frees us in so many ways. But in many ways, you hear people who say, I'm spiritual but not religious. Right. That's that point, and they'll say, I don't need a church to tell me how to live my life. I don't want all those rules and regulations, But I always say, well, I'm spiritual but not religious. That's like saying to Jesus, I like you but I don't love you.
Yeah.
It's like, I like you but I don't want to get married. Let's just live together, be friends. But let's not. There's no commitment there. There's no commitment.
Right.
And people will tell you when they're in a marriage that's committed to each other, it's very loving and freeing and beautiful, So I think that's my little homily now on all this. But I think, live the life of discipleship, live a joyful life, and talk about discipleship as a life of freedom. Freedom from so many other things that we all are struggling with in our culture today.
The joy of discipleship. Beautiful. Bishop, this has been wonderful. I appreciate the amount of time you've given us on these past segments, and I'm going to encourage people to our site to go onto your blogs and listen, see, hear, and read what you put out, because you're certainly holding the pulse of society real tight.
Thank you.
And good luck with your work and the Conference of Bishops and your diocese.
God bless you.
Keep us posted. God bless you. Thank you. This has been Father Louis Scurti with Bishop Christopher Coyne, Diocese of Burlington, Vermont. God bless you. Oh, is that a blessing? Did you give us the blessing?
No, that was Go Patriots Way.
Stay well, Bishop. Thank you very much.